You know, when it comes to the relationship between the U.S. and China, it's never just simple rivalry or simple cooperation. It's usually both happening at the same time. And right now, that pattern is becoming even more obvious. So let's break down what's going on. At the top level, things actually look a bit positive. U.S. President Donald Trump is planning to visit Beijing in mid-May to meet China's leader, Xi Jinping. This meeting was delayed earlier, but now it's back on track. And there's even talk that she might visit the U.S. later this year. So, on the surface, it looks like both sides are trying to stabilize relations, especially with global tensions rising and economic uncertainty everywhere. But here's the thing. Behind the scenes, it's a very different story. Interestingly, the U.S. and China are still cooperating in some areas. For example, U.S. authorities recently charged several Chinese nationals and companies linked to fentanyl trafficking. And here's the surprising part. This case actually involved help from Chinese authorities. So even though both countries compete heavily, they still work together when it comes to share problems like drug trafficking. But at the same time, the U.S. is tightening restrictions in other areas. A good example? A new move to ban certain foreign-made internet routers, widely seen as targeting Chinese companies. This is linked to concerns over cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure. So basically, cooperation in one area and growing tension in another. If you look at the bigger picture, U.S.-China relations aren't heading toward full conflict, but they're also not improving in any meaningful way. Instead, they're settling into something more complicated, a mix of limited cooperation and deep competition, especially in tech and security. Even the upcoming Trump-Xi meeting probably won't change that in a big way. Now, let's talk about China's economy, because officially, things sound stable. But on the ground, the situation looks a bit different, especially for smaller businesses. Many companies in sectors like textiles and plastics are struggling right now. Why? Because global oil prices are rising, partly tensions in the Middle East, and that's pushing up production costs, in some cases, by as much as 40% for businesses that were already operating on thin margins. This is a serious problem. Here's where it gets interesting. Not all parts of China's economy are suffering. Some sectors, like electric vehicles, solar energy, and AI, are actually doing well. So, what you're seeing is a kind of split economy. High-tech industries growing, traditional manufacturing struggling. Economists call this a K-shaped recovery. And the concern is, if small and medium businesses start failing at scale, it could affect jobs, incomes, and overall economic stability. Now, there's another issue developing, this time involving Mexico. China is pushing back against new tariffs imposed by Mexico on Chinese goods. These tariffs, some as high as 35%, are believed to be influenced by U.S. pressure. Basically, the U.S. doesn't want Chinese goods entering through Mexico to avoid tariffs. And now, China is warning it could respond. This situation shows how global trade is becoming more divided, and countries like Mexico are getting caught in the middle. Finally, let's talk about tech. Because China is tightening control over its tech industry, especially AI. A recent example involves a startup called Manus, which was being sold to Meta. But Chinese authorities stepped in, called in the company's leadership, and even stopped them from leaving the country during the review. That's a big signal. It shows China wants to keep control over important technologies and doesn't want them easily moving into foreign hands. Honestly, what we're seeing here is a world that's becoming more divided, but also more interconnected at the same time. The U.S. and China still need each other in some areas, but they also don't trust each other enough to fully cooperate. And that tension is now spilling into trade, technology, and even smaller economies around the world. So yeah, that's where things stand right now. A relationship built on both cooperation and competition, an economy under pressure, and a global system that's slowly becoming more fragmented. What do you think? Is this the new normal for global politics? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.